The Profanities of War.
A positive electron production.
We all know what war means, but what exactly does war do to our environment?
During the occurrence of a war, it either disrupts our wildlife and environment or possibly eradicate it completely.
The production of weapons and assortment of materials for the use of war taxes the earth with an excessive amount of strain, from mining resources to removing forests and habitats for factories. This is also known as deforestation. OK Tidy Mine in Papua New Guinea is a prime example of exposed hillsides, mine dumps, erosion, and result in siltation of drainages. Nearby rivers and other sources of water are also affected.
However, the material mined is useless until processed. The material is shipped in bulk to factories where then they are processed. Although factories are often placed in an industrial area away from civilization, they still affect the wildlife in the area.
Factories leave behind an abundance of waste. The materials burned create many byproducts and toxins that are released into our air, ground, or water, disrupting the carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus cycles. Production of TNT in the U.S. was upscaled in 1916. From the 1940s to 70s, the U.S. Department of Defense approved of a method of production in which TNT and TNT-containing explosive fillers were melted to recover explosives. These processes often generated significant quantities of explosive contaminated wastewaters. The untreated wastewater was discharged into unlined impoundments, lagoons, and ditches. This resulted in significant levels of soil and groundwater contamination.
The production of TNT requires a process that produces multiple magnitudes of pollution. First, the toluene is nitrated to produce MNT. MNT is then renitrated to create DNT, and DNT is nitrated again into TNT using a solution of nitric acid and oleum.
When the produced material is used in war, war itself causes lots of terraforming. Since modern-day warfare is more abstract due to the fact that it is mainly guerrilla warfare, we're going to focus on older types of war, namely the Second World War.
The Battle of Stalingrad, modern-day Volgograd, was a military conflict between the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany. Both sides employed heavy infantry, artillery, and a large air force. Therefore, this theater caused a massive amount of pollution. With the extensive use of machinery and heavy equipment, the pollution created causes an extreme disruption of the food chain.
The bombings of Japan caused the forced unconditional surrender of Japan from World War II. This radiation can last for a long time. In fact, of the 60 kilograms of uranium-235 that was dropped, 550 grams will still be around even after 550 billion years.
So what kind of solutions can we have to this? Of course, the best solution is to not have war. However, we all know that this is an impractical idea since humanity is still far from peace.
So all we can do is think of cleaner ways of war. Many of our ideas are not realistic due to the fact that the government in their right mind would not fund this. However, in the end, these are still alternatives that can protect ecosystems. One topic that we discussed regarded the vast amounts of oil that a household goes through via cooking and especially deep frying. With that information in mind, we concluded that using biodiesel to fuel war vehicles and production factories would be a solution that can benefit the environment. Several years back, turning brown grease was nearly impossible and took large amounts of energy, greater than what it really was worth. Brown grease is a product of used oil that is contaminated with food solids, thus difficult to separate and distinguish during the refining process. However, now that technology has advanced so much, one can convert brown grease with ease.
We could also reuse scrap metals and parts from broken down vehicles. In a deforested area that once prospered, we can replenish the soil and plant seeds. Furthermore, we can restore areas that have been infected by radiation through bioremediation. However, the flaws of this proposal is that firstly, the cost and amount of energy will not be the priority of the government. To add on, bioremediation can only help the ecosystem to a certain extent. If bioremediation could work in such a way that allowed a radioactive area to be cleaned up perfectly, this would be a possible plan. However, our technology is still far from this stage. Just remember that you are the solution to war. War also leaves behind lots of scrap and garbage. Land is left scorched and seldom is scrap metal recycled. After the war, no one remembers or cares about the families hurt by the property being destroyed or grief over lost members.